Recently, I made a video about 30 things Harry Potter fans wouldn't know if they didn't read the books, and you guys seem to like it, so I decided to make a part 2. In this video, we're going to go over another 30 details that movie fans wouldn't know. Stay tuned to the end because I saved the best for last. Also, if you enjoy this video, hit that like button. It will greatly help the channel with the algorithm. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on all of my other social medias, all of which are linked down below, and all of which house similar content that I make here on this channel. Now that I've said that, let's get into it. 1. Narcissa and Bellatrix have a third sister. Movie watchers know these two sisters, but what fans of the films don't know is that Nymphadora Tonks' mother, Andromeda, is the third sister in the Black family. There's actually a tiny little Easter egg that has her name in the 5th movie, but if you didn't read the books, you would have no idea what this Easter egg really was. Andromeda was actually disowned by Bellatrix and Narcissa, all because she married a Muggle-born named Ted Tonks, who was of course Nymphadora's father. 2. Harry and George beat the shit out of Malfoy. After Malfoy said some pretty out-of-pocket things about Harry's parents, the Weasley's parents, and sprinkled in a little bit of blood purity racism, Harry and George turned around after a Quidditch match, and they said to hell with magic, and just started wailing on Draco with their fists. Without Crabbe and Goyle there to protect him, he got his ass handed to him. Harry beat him so badly that his knuckles were bruised afterwards. 3. Sirius left Grimmauld Place to Harry in his will. Before Sirius died, he left everything he owned to Harry. This included his family home Grimmauld Place, which was the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. This also meant that Harry was left Kreacher the House Elf, now being the Elf's master. Harry decided to let the Order continue to use the house as their headquarters, and he sent Kreacher to work in the Hogwarts kitchens. 4. Snape tried to kill Neville's toad, Trevor. Yeah, this one makes even Snape supporters question his morality. Movie watchers met Trevor in the first film. Later in the series, Snape told Neville during a potions class that he would test the shrinking potion Neville was making on his toad at the end of the class, and if it was even slightly wrong, it was fatally poisonous. Snape said this knowing that Neville messed up pretty much every potion he made, but luckily Hermione whispered in Neville's ear, making sure he made it correctly, something that made Snape take 5 points away from Gryffindor because he was salty the toad didn't die. Yeah, not a good look for Snape. He's way worse in the books than he was in the movies. 5. Crookshanks was the real hero in The Prisoner of Azkaban. The movie went over Crookshanks, Hermione's cat, going after Ron's rat, Scabbers.
Ronald has lost his rat.
I haven't lost anything. Your cat killed him.
But what the film left out was the fact that Crookshanks knew that Scabbers was really Peter Pettigrew and was actually working with Sirius. At one point, Harry sees Crookshanks and a shaggy black dog, which is of course Sirius in his animagus form, walking along the grounds together late at night. Crookshanks does everything he can to help Sirius, even stealing a list of passwords for the Gryffindor common room that Neville wrote down so that Sirius could get in and kill Pettigrew himself. On top of that, Crookshanks lies on Sirius's chest to protect him in the Shrieking Shack. All along, Crookshanks was the real hero. 6. Harry used the Elder Wand to fix his broken wand. The film showed Harry's wand being broken into 2.
As we were leaving Godric's Hollow, I cast a curse and it rebounded.
A wand being broken like that is irreparable.
I tried to mend it, but wands are different.
It's done.
That is, unless you're the master of the most powerful wand in the world. After the Battle of Hogwarts, Harry used the Elder Wand to fix the wand he had gotten all those years ago at Ollivander's. 7. Sirius Black was not the first person to escape Azkaban. If you've only seen the films, your belief is that Sirius was the first person to escape the wizarding prison.
How did he escape? Well, that's the question, isn't it? He's the first one that done it.
But book readers know that this is not actually true. The first person to escape Azkaban was Barty Crouch Jr., the same man that took on the identity of Mad-Eye Moody in the Goblet of Fire. Barty Jr. did this with the help of his parents, as Barty Crouch Sr. and his wife visited their son, and while there, Barty Jr. and his mother switched places, which the Dementors didn't know because they were blind. Mrs. Crouch died in Azkaban, while Barty Jr. was set free. 8. You need a license to apparate and disapparate. The films show apparating and disapparating many times, but what the films left out is that you need to pass a test to be able to do so, much like a driver's license in the Muggle world. Hogwarts hosted a whole lesson with the 6th years where they had to learn to apparate to small places in the Great Hall. Hermione ended up passing her test, but Ron failed because he left half an eyebrow behind. Meanwhile, Harry was too young to take the test because he didn't turn 17 until the summer. 9. Rufus Scrimgeour gave his life protecting Harry. In the Deathly Hallows Part 1, Kingsley's Patronus told all the wedding guests that the Minister of Magic was dead.
Minister of Magic is dead.
This of course referred to Rufus Scrimgeour, who appeared in the first scene of the movie. What the film left out though was that Scrimgeour died at the hand of Voldemort himself when he refused to give up Harry's location, dying a true hero. 10. Draco put Madame Rosmerta under the Imperius Curse for an entire school year. Movie fans met Madame Rosmerta in The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Madame Rosmerta. Ron fancies her.
That's not true.
But they didn't learn much about her except for the fact that she was the landlady of the Three Broomsticks. Her role was furthered in the Half-Blood Prince novel though, as Draco put her under the Imperius Curse. Movie fans probably wondered how the cursed necklace got to Katie Bell or how Slughorn's gift to Dumbledore was poisoned. This was all the doing of the Imperious Rosmerta under Draco's orders. 11. Dumbledore's funeral. One of the most memorable moments in the Half-Blood Prince book was the funeral of the fallen headmaster. The movie had that nice moment where everyone raised their wands for Dumbledore, but the book actually had a traditional funeral instead. There, loads of friendly faces showed up, including Maxime, Kingsley, Moody, Lupin, Tonks, Molly, Arthur, Bill, Fleur, Mrs. Fig, and a few others. And there were also some not so friendly faces there, like Cornelius Fudge, Dolores Umbridge, and Rita Skeeter. All the students were also in attendance, all watching as Hagrid carried Dumbledore to his White Tomb. The Merpeople in the Black Lake, as well as the Centaurs in the Forbidden Forest, came to pay their respects, and Fawkes the Phoenix flew overhead giving off his Phoenix Lament, or Phoenix Song. 12. Voldemort's mother used a love potion on his father. One of the biggest flops of the films was the fact that they didn't go over Voldemort's full backstory. In that backstory, we find out that the inbred Merope Gaunt, Voldemort's mother, was in love with her handsome muggle neighbor Tom Riddle Sr., aka Voldemort's father. The inbred Merope knew that she had no chance with him, so she decided to use a love potion on Tom. She basically date raped him, but even worse, forcing him to marry her and forcing him to impregnate her, all against his will of course. She eventually stopped giving him the love potion, thinking he'd stay for his unborn baby, but he ran for the hills and didn't look back at his wife or unborn son. 13. James saved Snape's life. Movie fans know that Snape tried to save Harry in the Philosopher's Stone.
Snape was trying to save me.
The reason why he did this was left out, however. Dumbledore tells Harry that Snape spent the last year going above and beyond to save him so that he could be even with James and could go back to hating his father's memory in peace. The way James saved him was explained in The Prisoner of Azkaban. After Sirius told Snape to go through the passage to the Shrieking Shack to find out the truth about Lupin, which Snape was semi-obsessed with, James ran after him and pulled him away from Werewolf Lupin just in time. 14. Draco had a friendship with Moaning Myrtle. Movie watchers know all about Moaning Myrtle's character. But what they don't know is that she had a strong connection with Draco Malfoy. Draco actually confided in Myrtle during the Half-Blood Prince, telling her about his struggles and failed attempts to complete his mission. Malfoy even cried to her on multiple occasions while Myrtle comforted him. 15. The Two-Way Mirror. This will probably close up a confusing plot point for those who have only seen the films. Remember that shattered piece of glass that Harry had, which linked up to another shattered piece of glass that Aberforth had? Yeah, well, these two shattered pieces were part of a two-way mirror that Sirius had given to Harry before he died. They had originally belonged to Sirius and James, which they used to talk to one another when in separate detentions at Hogwarts. After Sirius's death, Harry smashed this mirror, realizing that he could have used it to contact Sirius, and would have known that Sirius wasn't really in Voldemort's clutches. Harry kept that shattered piece of mirror, which still linked up to the other half, which Aberforth had come into possession of, which was a very good thing because it saved their life. 16. The Triwizard Maze had creatures in it. The third task in the movie left out a ton of details, including the many creatures that the champions had to face in there. They encountered blast-ended scroots, which were monstrous, very dangerous creatures that Hagrid had originally bred for his Care of Magical Creatures class. Not a good look for Hagrid as a teacher there. Champions also faced a Sphinx in the maze, which made them answer riddles. They faced boggarts, which movie fans saw in The Prisoner of Azkaban, and they also faced Acromantula, which movie fans saw in The Chamber of Secrets. Harry and Cedric actually faced one of these Acromantulas together, resulting in Harry breaking his leg. Yeah, that's right. Harry faced Voldemort in the graveyard and beat him on a broken leg. Pretty impressive. 17. Neville Longbottom's grandmother fought in the Battle of Hogwarts. Movie fans never actually met Augusta Longbottom, although they did see her wardrobe during Lupin's Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Augusta had actually gone on the run before the battle, as Death Eaters went after her as punishment for Neville's rebellious behavior at Hogwarts that year, and Augusta ended up putting the Death Eater that came after her in the hospital before escaping. She reappeared when it came time for the final battle, and she fought side by side with her grandson, so proud of the man that Neville had turned out to be. 18. Dumbledore saved Umbridge from the Centaurs. The explanation for this is that Dumbledore went into the Forbidden Forest himself and rescued Umbridge. Nobody knew how he managed to do so without sustaining any injury to himself, but that's Dumbledore for you. 19. Lily Potter's letter. Movie fans never saw a pretty large part of The Prince's Tale, which saw Snape reading a letter that Lily Potter had written before she died. It was sent to Sirius, and in it enclosed a picture of Lily laughing at baby Harry as he flew on the toy broomstick that Sirius had gifted Harry for his first birthday. Snape ended up keeping the last page of the letter, which said, "Lots of love, Lily," and he ripped the picture in half, keeping the half that had Lily laughing. Harry found the first page of the letter as well as the other half of the picture that depicted him while the trio was at Grimmauld Place. And from this behind the scenes picture, it looks like they filmed this, but it was never added and never released. 20. Snape was the person who told Voldemort the prophecy. This one was sort of hinted to as Dumbledore tells Snape about the prophecy.
Prophecy did not refer to a woman. It spoke of a boy born at the end of July.
Yes. But it's never specifically said that Snape was the one who brought this information to Voldemort. Snape actually overheard the prophecy when Sybil Trelawney foretold it during her job interview with Dumbledore. Snape being a Death Eater, he told the Dark Lord what he had heard. However, Snape was kicked out before he heard the end of the prophecy, the line that was probably the most important part and which ended up screwing Voldemort over. But getting back to Snape, yeah, he's the reason Harry was an orphan and he's the reason Lily and James died. And on top of that, he wouldn't have even batted an eye if it was another family that wasn't Lily's. He would have just let them die. Another truth bomb to you movie watchers who think Snape is good. Book Snape is so much worse. 21. Umbridge injured Hedwig. As if we needed another reason to hate Umbridge, movie fans can add another fact that will make them loathe this awful character even more. On her orders, Umbridge had Hedwig attacked when intercepting Harry's mail. Hedwig was hurt so badly that the stand-in Care of Magical Creatures professor Grubbly Plank had to nurse her back to health. 22. Draco Malfoy was made a prefect. In part 1 of this series, I mentioned that both Ron and Hermione were made prefects for Gryffindor House, but what I didn't mention was that Draco Malfoy was made the prefect for Slytherin House alongside Pansy Parkinson. The two abused their power, taking points from other houses for small and insignificant reasons, especially from Gryffindor. 23. Dumbledore sent Petunia a howler. Again, in part 1, I went over how Petunia actually asked Dumbledore if she could go to Hogwarts. That was when she was a kid, but they had correspondence with each other during Petunia's adult life as well. When Vernon was about to kick Harry out of the house, and Petunia was ready to let him do so, a howler arrived. Movie fans of course know about howlers as they saw Mrs. Weasley's in the second movie. This howler was a lot shorter though, as it merely said, "Remember my last, Petunia," which immediately made Petunia go against her husband, saying that Harry had to stay. She did this because Dumbledore's howler reminded her of the last letter he wrote her, which explained that Harry had to call Petunia's house his home in order for Lily's love protection to carry on, which was possible because Petunia shared the same blood as Lily, seeing as they were sisters. 24. The Bloody Baron murdered the Grey Lady. We meet the ghost of the Bloody Baron very briefly in the first movie. And we of course meet the Grey Lady in a pretty big scene in the 8th film.
You're the Grey Lady.
What the movie left out was the connection these two had before they died. Before they became ghosts, the Baron was in love with the Grey Lady, or Helena Ravenclaw. When Helena's mother, Rowena Ravenclaw, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts, was dying, she sent the Baron to bring her daughter home so she could say goodbye. When the Baron found Helena, she refused to come with him and rejected his affections. This rejection made the Baron furious, and he stabbed Helena in a fit of rage. Looking at Helena's dead body and having her blood all over him, he couldn't live with what he had done, so he stabbed himself, taking his own life. We get a little nod to Romeo and Juliet there. The two opted to become ghosts when they died, and both decided to reside at Hogwarts, each representing a Hogwarts house, the Baron being for Slytherin and Helena being for Ravenclaw. Though they both lived in Hogwarts, the Baron never bothered Helena, ashamed of what he had done. 25. Remus Lupin made Harry the godfather of his son Teddy. Movie fans know that Lupin and Tonks had a baby together.
It's Teddy who needs you.
He'll sleep till dawn and snore like his father.
But what the movie left out was that Lupin and Tonks decided to make Harry the godfather. This decision came mostly from Lupin, because earlier in the Deathly Hallows book, Remus left a pregnant Tonks to try and join the trio on their mission. Harry called him out for this, saying he should be with his family. Lupin was initially furious and he stormed out, but Harry's words made him return to his family, which Lupin was immensely grateful for. 26. Snape and Quirrell's defenses for the Philosopher's Stone. In the movie, we saw 5 obstacles. Hagrid's being Fluffy, Sprouts being the Devil's Snare, Flitwick's being the keys, McGonagall's being the chessboard, and Dumbledore's being the Mirror of Erised. However, the film left out 2 more, that being Quirrell's obstacle as well as Snape's. Quirrell's was a fully grown troll that guarded the door, which he himself knocked out, meaning Harry and Hermione didn't have to fight it. That's another difference, by the way. Hermione didn't stay with Ron after he was knocked out, she went on with Harry. Meanwhile, Snape's obstacle was a riddle that made you choose between different potions, some of which would allow you to go through the purple and black flames blocking each doorway. Hermione of course figured this riddle out, but there was only enough for one person, which is why Harry went on without Hermione. 27. Percy had a girlfriend named Penelope. Percy had much of his art cut from the films, including the fact that he had a girlfriend during his time at Hogwarts. She was a Ravenclaw student named Penelope Clearwater, and she was a fellow prefect. Percy locked himself in his room at the Burrow during the summer holiday in the Chamber of Secrets, secretly writing letters to his new girlfriend. Percy kept his relationship a secret from his siblings until Ginny walked in on them and spilled the beans. The two dated for the rest of their Hogwarts career, but they broke up after graduating. 28. Hagrid was reunited with Buckbeak. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that Sirius left everything he owned to Harry. This included Buckbeak, who movie watchers will remember was his ride away from Hogwarts at the end of The Prisoner of Azkaban. Sirius cared for Buckbeak, who they renamed Witherwings to protect the Hippogriff's identity. When Harry became Buckbeak's new owner, without hesitation, he said that Buckbeak should go with Hagrid, and Hagrid cared for the Hippogriff from then on. 29. Arthur Weasley and Lucius Malfoy got into a physical fight. The Chamber of Secrets film saw a standoff between Arthur and Lucius at Flourish and Blotts, but this was a lot more heated in the book. After Lucius said the line,
"And I thought your family could sink no lower."
Unlike in the film where Arthur did not engage, Book Arthur ran at Lucius and smashed him against the bookcase. Arthur left the fight with a bloody lip, and Lucius left the fight with a black eye from a book falling on his face. Hagrid broke it up, and Molly was not happy with Arthur after the fight. And finally, number 30, I saved the best for last. Fred and George set Peeves the Poltergeist on Umbridge before they left Hogwarts. Movie watchers know of Fred and George's epic exit from Hogwarts, but the movie left out possibly the best part of this. Before they flew off, they turned to Peeves the Poltergeist, who was a character cut from the films but who caused mischief and chaos in the castle, and the twins told him to give Umbridge hell for them. Peeves never listened to students, but for Fred and George, he not only listened to them, but saluted to them. He kept well on his promise, tormenting Umbridge for weeks. At the end of the school year, he sent her packing by chasing her off while whacking her with a cane, which was the cane that belonged to Professor McGonagall, which somehow mysteriously found its way into Peeves' possession. And that's 30 more things that movie fans wouldn't know. Comment below if you can think of any more that I didn't mention in part 1 or part 2. That's all I have for you guys today though, so I will see you in the next video.